Hi, everyone. I think we will kick off, and as people join, we'll let them in as they come along and they'll just catch up. Tanaka, do you want to kick off?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Tech Leadership Meetup for those who are new and everyone who's returning. Before I hand over back to Benny to do the intro of our speaker, I'm just going to quickly chat about a few things we're doing on the tech leadership side that you may be interested in outside of the meetup. So 2 months ago, we started a tech leadership newsletter, which we release at the end of each meetup. So it's only released once a month. And what it is a curated list of interesting technology leadership content we've found over the month. And we push that out via an email. So this is an example of what the last issue would look like. It's basically an intro of what it's about, then links to either articles or podcasts or videos that are related to tech leadership. So if you're interested in that, I'll be sharing the link to this in the chat now, and again at the end of the meetup. And all you have to do is once you get to this page, just drop your email address, and we'll be pushing out the third issue at the end of the meetup. And then if you are on Twitter, we also have a Twitter account, Tech Leadership X. And on that, we actually push out a tweet almost daily with, again, tech leadership oriented content or sharing details around our next meetup like we had with Aveshan's one, yeah. So if you are on Twitter, you can also follow our Tech Leadership Twitter account and you also get that content. And that's it. I'll just drop the links to that in the chat, but I'll hand over back to Benny, our MC for tonight.
Hi, everyone. So welcome to another edition of Tech Leadership. Just a couple of house rules before we get started. So just please note that we are recording this meetup. So if anyone doesn't want to be on it, please just switch to black and or let us know, and we'll try our very best to make sure you're not in it. Then please keep yourselves on mute. That just helps us with sort of like ambient sound in the background, and allows our speaker to talk more freely. If you folks do want to ask any questions, please just type in the chat, and either Tanaka, myself, or Roberto, who I see isn't here tonight, will curate and kind of ask the questions towards the end. So we'll ask, we'll do that towards the end. Then the rule of 2 feet applies. So we know everyone's super busy. So if you need to tend to kids or make dinner or do anything that's really important, please don't feel free like you need to stay right to the end. So drop off as you need to. And we're always open to feedback. And if you want to type that in the chat as well, please let us know what we can do better for our sessions in the future. So yes, thank you so much. It really gives me a lot of pleasure and a lot of joy to have Aveshan on board. He's not only a really great friend and former colleague, but he's done incredible stuff in his career. And he's currently an engineering manager at Spotify. And just to give you a sense of the type of empathetic person he is and self-awareness, his talk tonight isn't the typical talk, and he's going to be talking about his failures as a leader rather than, you know, boast about things that he might have achieved. But because he's not going to do that, I thought I'd just read out his bio and give you a sense of who he is. Aveshan is a deeply passionate problem solver. He's a servant leader with over 16 years of experience working with software teams. He has worked in the music, fintech, banking, supply chain, online trading, investment, medical insurance, and military industries with his educational background in computer gaming and graphics. He cares about building effective organizations, driven and productive teams, and a culture that promotes learning, high quality feedback loops, craftsmanship, and obviously fun. He believes strongly in leveraging the innate ability and talent in incredible humans by using creativity and technology as a medium, and ultimately bringing these elements together to deliver meaningful, sustainable, and empowering value to people. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to my good friend, Aveshan.
Thank you, Benny. It's always so weird having a bio read out like that. I was like, what was I smoking when I wrote that? But thank you so much for hosting me, everyone. Really great to see so many familiar names and faces. Wish I could spend the whole hour just catching up. But when Benny approached me and said, hey, like, it'll be fun to chat about something, I had no idea what to chat about. I was like, I could chat about Spotify, I could chat about particular experiences. And then for some reason, this failure came to mind, and I was thinking about why. And I just thought, because I suck at it. Like, I suck at talking about my own failures. And I was like, well, let me practice doing it. So this is kind of how it started. And let me present quickly here, share my screen. Cool. Everyone see that? Yeah, cool, awesome. Yeah, so as I said, I really wanted to make this something which is about failure. There's lessons in here for sure, because, you know, I think it's helpful looking at failures in the guise of lessons, but I specifically start each of these things with failures. So yeah, what's my hopes out of this? I really just want to hope it's a safe space where you get to just talk about failure more. I hope like there's some reflection and learning, like not for all of you, but for me as well. It was a lot of fun me presenting or like preparing this, because it was almost like this leadership retrospective and thinking about, oh, like, what did I learn here? And what did I stuff up in these roles? What has my journey been? So it was actually really nice kind of going through it as a retrospective. So I hope that there's some mutual sharing that'll happen here in this space. And yeah, I just wanted to have some fun. So this is what I'm hoping. I'll just share a bit more of the background there. Benny's done it, but I'll just point one or two more things out. I want to do a check-in, because I don't want this to be me talking at you for the next hour. I'll talk through the structure of how I'm going to go through this. I landed up at 16 failures. I have no idea where that number came from, but I just stopped at the point where I couldn't fill a slide up with any more failures. So this is where I stopped. And I'm hoping we have some time for sharing at the end. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, I've had the most wonderful privilege, and I'm so grateful that I got to work at these amazing companies and I'm able to work with amazing human beings. What I'm doing right now at Spotify is very much around trying to empower creators so they can earn a living off their art, which is a lot of fun, because I've had this music background and this love for music and this love for software teams. And I asked myself, what would I want to do with both of those things? And Spotify was a natural fit. So that's how I landed up at Spotify. So very, very grateful to be here at Spotify in Stockholm. Other things I'm doing right now, because I'm loving COVID has been really kind to me, because I've been taking on a lot of projects. So have started making a game with a good friend. I am very close to finally releasing some music out there in the world under the name I'm calling it Lesser Known Human. And I've been experimenting with electronics a lot lately. So I'm hoping to like make some music electronics, which has been a ton of fun. So yeah, this is my hopes for the word cloud up tonight. This is aspirational. There's going to be some swearing, and there's going to be all these other words in. I'm probably not going to hit all of it, but I'm hoping I do. So let's see. I'm hoping Benny holds me accountable to a lot of this. So check-in time. So I'd love for everyone in chat to kind of just write down a quick word or phrase of like what you feel when you hear the statement, failing as a leader. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? A feeling, a response, like just drop it in chat. I love it. Vulnerability, learning, fear, humility, courage, weight, embarrassed, loss of confidence, disappointment, unacceptable, pride, responsibility. Oh, this is such good stuff. Learning. Yeah. Letting one's down. Exactly. Learning. Yeah. Like pioneering, learning, letting teams down. These, yeah, exactly. Like there's something that I feel a lot in this as well, which is you're feeling this that weight and that responsibility as a leader, and you feel like failing isn't something you're allowed to do. And I think like this has been very interesting to me to like reflect on, like what if that was a misinterpretation, or like something we put upon ourselves, and actually it's okay to fail as a leader. Now, as I said, this is kind of like the genesis of the talk. Maybe it was just that what if we, destigmatized failing as a leader, because we know logically that failing is something great, because out of failing comes learning. Like we know this is like logic, but it's a hard thing to do as a leader. So before I get into the rest of it and talk about these things, thank you for sharing, everyone. That was awesome. Things about things. I'm going meta on this presentation. So a few things. This is not a list of what it is to be a great leader. These are just failings, completely based on my personal experience and my map of the world. And this is very important. A lot of these failures maybe not apply to you, may not resonate with you. Your context will be different. And I think that's it. It's just, it's my interpretation of my experiences. Yeah. And I hope that there's something really great all of us can get out of that. Not a comprehensive list. I just started writing things down, got to 60 and stopped. So it's in no particular order. A lot of it will contradict and play with each other. And I think that is coming back to these feelings I think we all put out there. A lot of what we're doing feels in contradiction. It feels in contrast with leading teams. So that's something. I fail at all of these things often. Like this is not something I failed at once and I've learned and moved on from. I still fail a lot of these things and I am wrong. So a lot of these learnings will be wrong. A lot of these failures will be wrong. But I think that's maybe a nice point to start off, like believing I'm wrong and then continually searching to learn how to be right. So as Benny said, questions or comments, please pop them in. I really want to hear from everyone, make sure this isn't a one-way thing. How this looks in terms of structure, I'm going to talk about the failure in the first slide. There might be a second slide with a bit of my really poor drawing. And then kind of like learnings and frameworks. So like what I take out of that, were there any interesting frameworks that I use to kind of like move past it? So that's the general flow of this. Those are the list of all the learnings and failures and learnings we're going to go through. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. Allow everyone to just squint at it, but basic theme, it goes everywhere. It goes from like me dealing with ego, not knowing how to like rally a team together, like just like, like it goes everywhere in every kind of like shape and form and level and influence. So let's get into it. So this is probably one of the first things I think I learned and failed at is that, and this story is my very first leadership experience where I was leading a team of about 8 and everyone in the team was more experienced and older than me. And I was thrown into this position and I just had no idea what to do. Like, I thought I knew what to do, but I had zero idea what to do, like nothing. And I remember my leader at the time telling me something and he said, like, let go of control. And I didn't know what he meant. Like I knew logically what that meant, but I didn't know what that meant. So what did I do? And like why I drew it this way is because I felt small. I felt as this like really, really small human being not knowing what to do because I didn't feel I had the experience or authority or knowledge to be leading these set of humans. So I started doing something. I started measuring my value as having answers to questions. And if I didn't know it, then I would just kill myself trying to find out the answers. And when that didn't work, because I definitely didn't have all the answers, what did I do? Well, I started doing this. I went straight to authority because I thought that was the way I needed to do it because I was trying to look for control. And there's been so many cases like that where I felt so out of control and didn't go to curiosity or to learning or to asking questions, but went straight to playing to authority. And I think authority is an interesting kind of like tool to keep in our belts. But, looking back on what I did here, it just didn't work because the other problem with me trying the strategy is that I may have had authority in title, but I definitely didn't have authority in experience. So the strategy also failed me completely. And, what had happened with this team is that I'd eventually transitioned out because we moved clients essentially. but I completely fucked this up. Like it was catastrophic. And I learned so much from this experience. And the biggest thing I keep coming back to is questions over answers. It's just not my job to have all the answers. But if I'm always asking questions, that's just what matters. And I think over the years, it's been something that I still completely stuff up now and again, because whenever I'm feeling a little insecure about myself, or I don't know what I should be doing, or it's a completely new area, I still feel like I should have answers. Because you naturally put yourself in these spaces, you're in meetings where people are asking you hard questions, and to not have a voice made me feel like I didn't know anything. So coming back to this has been really important to me. Always coming back to questions over answers. Cool. Next one. Not standing up for my human, even though he or she was wrong. And I remember this moment so vividly when this happened to me. And this was about 5 years ago, sitting in a boardroom where one of my managers had said something to a business stakeholder and didn't say something that kind of like resonated with her, and something I didn't understand. And I remember him saying this thing and then looking to me for approval, looking for me for support and validation, and I didn't do anything. I remember this moment so vividly because I remember the expression on his face of what he was looking for, and I just didn't give it. And why didn't I give it? Well, because I was insecure, because I didn't know what to do in that moment. I didn't know what I should be doing. Should I have an answer for this? Should I back up something that's wrong? Should I be, taking someone's side regardless of the outcome? I wasn't sure what to do there. But I think my lesson here out of this was that my insecurity is a reflection of how I will lead. If I'm feeling fear, I will lead with fear. If I'm feeling like I'm not adding value, I will lead that way. I will feel like I'm not adding value to something. And my actions will show this. And I've experienced it so much. I've experienced it in myself. I've experienced it with people I've worked with, is that your greatest insecurities will completely come out and show how you lead people. And I think the trick is just being aware of it and knowing when it's happening. And in that moment, then making a choice of which way you get to go, and like just being aware of it. And I think in this moment that I have so vividly as a memory, I wasn't aware of it because the fear was clouding so much for me in what I want to do here. But yeah, let's go on. Failure number 3, meeting others in different trust models. So this is something that I know, and now I can articulate fairly clearly about how I build trust. And it took some really great work that I read about from someone called David Maister, who has the trust model. And I've got it in the next slide in how he frames trust. But before that, I couldn't quite articulate it, but there was something I knew about myself, is that what I love doing first is I love just getting to know someone. And like when I get to know someone, that gives me such a great place to kind of influence or help or support. And it's something I've always applied. But there's a difference here. There's a difference with, I think, expectations as a leader, because people are going to be wanting things from you. And my experience of this in a role was I had been leading the engineering organization, and business stakeholders were coming to me and asking me for delivery for the engineering organization. But what was I trying to do? I was trying to meet them in this model that I created, which was getting to know them and getting to be intimate and trying to understand them and trying to just be like, someone they could come to for support. When they just that wasn't what they needed me for. What they needed me for was delivery. They needed me to be reliable. They needed me to deliver something so they could do what they needed to with their objectives of business. And it took me a while to understand what I was doing wrong here, in me completely missing what they were looking for in me. And unintentionally, what I was doing was I was not building trust. I thought I was building trust, but I was just building intimacy. And this comes down to this beautiful equation here, which I love. And what this says is trust equals credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. And so the way to read this is, someone who you deem as trustworthy is credible, as in someone you believe is someone who like is knowledgeable on a subject or something like that. Reliable, delivers on the things that you both agree on, someone you feel close to, has intimacy. And it's divided by self-orientation, because if you feel that it's someone that you do not have, who feel like you don't have their back with, or vice versa, and feels that it could be selfish, it kind of negates or like divides everything above that. And so what I was doing is that my strategy goes, I go intimacy first. I then make sure this human being understands that I'm there for mutual benefit. I deliver on things together, which is reliability, and that's how I get to credibility. But everyone else, in particularly this role, was looking to me for credibility and reliability. And I kept on bashing my head against intimacy and self-orientation first. And this is like my biggest takeaway from the experience of why it didn't work, why no one trusted me in this role, is because this is what I was doing. So I think like this learning here for me is like being curious about what others expect of me. And then underneath it, picking my battles, knowing this. So if I'm trying to win a battle on intimacy or self-orientation when someone is looking for credibility, it's just not going to work. And I need to find ways to pull them in closer to my model and lean into their model as well. And this trust equation tool has been one of the most like amazing, beneficial things I've ever used, because it just gives me something I can articulate trust with, which I just find so incredible. Cool. All right. I'm gonna just pause for a bit because I'm aware I'm flying through these. So I'm just gonna pause and allow everyone to just process for a bit before I go on. And I'm gonna take a sip of water while I do that. Okay. Cool. Lying to protect my ego. This one is hard. I have never told anyone the story I'm about to tell you guys. How long ago was this? This was probably about 10 years ago. And I was coming out of a phase where I was, you know, I've been doing fairly well in my career and being given amazing opportunities. But I was still insecure because I'd been pulled into many interesting roles, which I still doubted myself on. I was still feeling quite insecure. And so there was a particular incident where I was in charge of a team, and we had a production system that had went down. And unintentionally, what I had done is I brought it down because I had done the wonderful thing of running a script on production when I should have been running it in staging. So the usual mistake. And I completely panicked in this moment. And I never told anyone that I was the one that did this. It went down, we brought it back up, everyone just asked questions, and I never said a thing because I just felt so insecure in this moment. I was just so, yeah, like it was like, what do I do with this? Because I felt like I needed to be perfect. I needed to have the answers. I needed to all these things. And I was grappling in that moment, in that instinct, grappling with being a leader and trying to understand if this was something that would be like beneficial to my team, seeing me fuck up this badly, or something that would work. And now looking at it, like, you know, obviously I would go, it's something we'd share because out of that we get learning. But like in that moment, I couldn't see that. All I wanted to do was just protect my ego. And so the thing that I, you know, keep coming back to here is like imperfection and vulnerability are liberating. And I've experienced this past this point where I've had these moments where I've done something which didn't work or completely fucked up something, and have had that moment where I've like let it go into the world. And it did something so wonderful. It left something, like it left me. It feels like it was more of a, it felt like it was more of a giving act than it was like a taking act. Whereas me protecting my ego was a taking act. And once I did this reframe, it's been a lot easier. There's definitely times like ego still comes up because ego is ego. It's always going to be there. But I think it was so important for me to go through that journey and realize what it felt like to hold on to that. Like how much it like ate at me, keeping that for so long. And I think it's so interesting to think about in our roles as leaders, like being able to do this, being able to like play to imperfection and vulnerability, because imagine like the impact of how liberating this could be for the humans we're leading. So this was an interesting one for me, and something that like was quite was quite a big, like, pivotal moment in my career. Yeah, cool. Let's go on. Leading only through hows. So this is something I think, again, I learned enough times to like look back and kind of go, come on, Aveshan, like, you know better than this. But what do I mean here? Like leading only through hows is leading through, maybe it's linked to leading through answers, but the reason we do what we do, the reason we wake up every day and want to do something amazing is because we want to solve like fucking hard problems. This is what gets us up in the morning. And giving humans answers isn't inspiring. Giving humans problems is. And I keep coming back to like, what are our whys? Like, what are the whys of something we're solving? Not our what's in our house, like our whys. Because when people understand whys, they pull together in a beautiful, beautiful way. And the mistakes I've made here are completely this, where I would almost not be authoritarian or dictate, but just give hows, because I think that will get us further in delivery, because this is what we held accountable. So we held accountable delivery, and the fastest way to delivery is just to tell someone how to do it. And I keep learning this lesson here, and there's been so many times that I've completely stuffed this up because I forget, and I go, shit, like I need us to deliver. Like, how do I do that? And luckily, like I've always had amazing humans around me, amazing people in my team who will ask the question, like they'll ask, well, Aveshan, like, why are we doing this? What problem are we solving? Where are we going with this? And that always helps me. But it's always easy to like play this cheat in the system of like hows, because you want to get to an outcome as quickly as possible. So what's the learning here? So I think there's a few things here. Like one, I think purpose beats strategy. And I'm making that statement, and the next slide will contradict it. Purpose can't live on its own. Just having purpose without strategy, I don't think it is the right solve. But spending time on purpose and spending time on why is, I keep coming back to as just something that has benefited me so well. Because when human beings understand the whys, the what's and the hows and the who's just like magically happen. Like everything happens underneath it. Do you have to spend time on strategy? Heck yes, because otherwise it's complete chaos. And the next slide will talk to this. But the other bit about that, like next to this like mess of whys and what's and hows and who's, I think is this like thing, this metaphor I tend to use a lot now, which is like knowing when to manage, coach, and mentor. And why it's in the context of purpose and hows is because I think as a leader, we have to be playing these three roles and knowing when to play these roles. My metaphor here is always around, you know, your goal as a team is like surging through this forest, and you have to like cut down these trees because you're going to save some humans like further down the line. And maybe that requires a bit of management, because like maybe you have to surge ahead and help clear a path, or like figure out like what these trees are and how you need to cut them down. But then maybe also what you need to do is maybe take a bit of a step back and like spend time with a human who has an axe and like, you know, show him or her like how to use an axe. And you have to be next to them. I kind of go, well, this is how you cut down a tree. And well, maybe the other thing you need to do is just take a step back and let the human go ahead and let them fail. And all of that, I think, only comes together with purpose. Because if you're really sharp on purpose for like an overall objective or an individual human being, those things come together so beautifully. And this is something, again, like I think I continuously struggle with, like not knowing when to manage, when to mentor, and when to coach. And I think my biggest gap here is managing, actually. Like I think I play to coach and mentor much easier than I do playing to manager. And I'll speak more about it, but later on why that is. But again, yeah, I think interesting one here, just like, you know, hows isn't the only tool we have in our belts here. We've got whys and what's and who's as well in our belt. Cool. Okay. Let's move on. All right. So this is the one where I was talking about strategy and leading teams without any direction. So this was my failing here in thinking about autonomy. And I had made this mistake of thinking about autonomy as sets of teams of humans that go off and you just allow them to do what they want to do. And I did a ton of research on autonomy. I was like, what is autonomy? And all the research that came out for autonomy said, autonomy is giving humans all the knowledge and context, giving them all the resources. And it's everything down to like being clear on like purpose and all these things. And down to like something very tangible, like, do they have laptops and an environment to work in? And then giving them a way for like being assisted, which is being their support. And I thought autonomy was just that. And I thought this would magically happen and teams would come together and just like awesome shit would happen. But it definitely didn't pan out that way. And there was something else linked to that, which I completely stuffed up because I had this different take on the world. And it's the diagram on the right there. And I drew this diagram in this experience, and I called it the reverse organogram, because I was so convinced of something. I was so convinced that I didn't want to lead out of authority. I wanted teams to be surging ahead and me supporting them. But I completely missed something. I missed something in that actually, like how this all comes together is autonomy without some kind of strategy is just chaos, because people don't know where to sail ships. People don't know how to pull towards something. And my role in this hierarchy is not hierarchical in telling, but it is in how we set direction. So everyone's looking at the compass and they're going, well, Aveshan, like, where should we go? And I'm going, I don't know, guys, like, you tell me, you figure it out. And that's completely not my role. My role needs to be setting the compass, because everyone's going to be judging how they navigate this map by this compass. So I need to be going, okay, here's this map, here's how the compass calibrates, and then setting these guardrails around it. And it is such a tricky balance. And I don't have all the answers here on like how to get autonomy right with like the right level. And definitely I can tell you, experiences in Spotify will say exactly the same thing. It really isn't as easy as that. And we get things like wrong a lot in Spotify in how we deal with autonomy, especially when it comes to much bigger projects. So yeah, like I think this lesson for me was like, it took a while for me to land. I think I only learned this lesson 2 years after I completely stuffed this up and realized what I was doing wasn't installing autonomy. I was installing chaos in the system. And with it, like, hierarchy is just not evil. And I had to reframe that a lot as well. It's not evil, but what I do with it is like, how do I use it for something that's powerful in the system in terms of like worlds and map building and navigating? Like, that's my role in the system. So yeah, that was a really interesting one for me to fail at and learn as well. Okay, right, we're gonna do one more, because that's gonna be like our halfway point. And then I'm gonna do like a little bit of a check-in, kind of just make sure I'm not talking at everyone again. So last one, before we take a bit of a break. Taking on too much and not delivering. So this one is interesting, not in a task management point of view, but I think what I learned here more about was how me setting expectations as a leader and drumming up enthusiasm and movement as a leader and then not delivering has much huger implications on the system. Because I'm trying to like start a movement and everyone's trying to get excited about it. And then I've got too much, I don't deliver it, and enthusiasm dies. And then everyone's going, well, Aveshan, like, you got us super excited about this shit. And like, what happened? Like, where's it gone? Like, and I had done this 2 roles ago where I did exactly this, where I'd have an idea, I would take it on because I didn't want to inundate the system with this work and felt like I needed to own it. And then I didn't deliver on it because I had too much work on my plate in the system. So unintentionally, what I was doing, like back to trust equation, was that I was not building trust in the system. I was doing exactly the opposite. I was leading our organization down this path where we would create ideas, not deliver on them, and not make forward movement because I wasn't doing something, which we know, delegation. And I had to do a lot of reframing here because I really struggled with this one because I always felt guilty delegating. I felt like me delegating means I can't do it. And that's my problem to solve, that I'm not spending time in the most effective way. So I need to own it. I need to solve it, and then I need to approach the problem that way. And it took me a very long time to kind of reframe this and understand that delegation is actually a really wonderful tool when I think it's done with a lot of kindness and a lot of encouragement and approached with someone where it's genuinely something that could empower them in their goals and aspirations. And I still completely suck at this one. This is like one of the things that I really get probably wrong the most, is that I just don't know how to delegate really well, because I just take on a lot myself and feel like I need to do that when I actually don't. So yeah, delegation. Cool. I think I may have got it wrong as well, because we still at number 6. And I think I was going to say we stop at 8. Oh, my numbering's off. Aha, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So I didn't do any drawings for this one because I realized I bit off more than I could chew, and I was making drawings for everything. And I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to make it in time. So this one doesn't have a drawing, but has been something that only landed last year. Like, this is something that I never considered, that I always struggled with this job of being a manager. And I was averse to this concept. And I started asking myself this question, which is like, why? Like, what am I pushing against here? And my biggest failure with this was, this was maybe about 8 years ago. And I took on a manager role, and I completely stuffed it up because I wasn't doing something. I wasn't doing the things you have to do as a manager, which is reports and getting through admin and doing all these things, because I just rebelled against it. I was just like, well, this is not something I want to be doing. There's these things that are eating up my day that are not me creatively problem solving. And that's true. Like, it's the nature of it. But the real learning I got out of this was realizing that, like, choosing that though is the thing that allows me to be a leader. And I'm not saying that you have to be a manager to be a leader. You can definitely be a leader without being a manager. But this is why I realized I chose manager roles. I was unconsciously choosing it because I wanted to influence systems. And I had not actively, consciously thought about the fact that this comes with all this other territories. I was for the longest time, I was running against this. So I never chose it. It kind of just chose me, and then I never made peace with it. And I only made peace with it like literally in the last year, where I realized, okay, this is what I've been struggling with for the last like 16 years or less than that actually. But it gives me opportunities to do something. And then suddenly, like, that reframe means that I'm not looking at it as something as a burden or something which is, annoying. Do I hate it still? Absolutely. But do I know I'm doing it because it gives me something else which is more important? Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting kind of failing. And like, I've hopped around so many times now, because the first time I failed at this, I went back to like being an engineer, because I missed it. And then something always pulled me back. And until I did this frame, I didn't understand why or what was pulling me back. Cool. Okay. How are we doing on time? Let's check the time here. Boy, okay, 20 minutes. All right. Okay, quick check-in then. Quick check-in. I wasn't looking at the chat, but all the experiences I've shared thus far, like, is there any ones that just particularly resonated? Just write down whatever words come to you, because I'm just curious to see like how everyone has been experiencing things I've been talking about. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, good points. Delegation. Yeah, delegation's hard. Hey, managing and leading. Yeah. Yeah. Leading without direction, management trap, micromanaging, trust and intimacy. Yeah. Ego. Yeah. Leading with why, having the answers. Awesome. Yeah. I'm really glad we're all kind of going on this journey. There's so much to share there, right? Autonomy. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's move on, because I want to make sure we have some time at the end for a bit of Q&A. So I'm gonna try and be a little bit quick here. leaving leaders to lead themselves. So I did this the first time I managed managers. I had this assumption that, well, I'm hiring leaders. They know what leadership is. I'm going to pull them together and magic's going to happen and everything's just going to be amazing. Did that happen? Of course not. It wasn't chaos, but what was happening, like underneath the covers, was chaos was brooding, because there's something very real, is that my team of leaders needed to come together. They needed to be their own team because we were trying to do something else. And for a year, I didn't solve this because I didn't think it was a problem. And it took me a year. And the only way I figured out that this was a problem is because conflict started happening. So different disciplines were conflicting with each other and weren't agreeing, and we couldn't reach consensus. And I was just like, what the hell's going on here? And I realized, wait a minute, I had not done anything to bring them together. So I was leading them individually in their disciplines, but I wasn't bringing us together in thinking about how we solved our problems together as a leadership team. And by then it was already quite hard because we had gone through a year of not building trust within this space. And I had to do a ton of work to remedy that damage. And it's something I'm so hypersensitive to now. Whenever I see this happening in front of me, where I go like, okay, I've bled by this so much, that knowing that, like, yeah, leaders need leadership at like all these levels, and it's so important for me to like think about this, I bring everyone together. And yeah, like my leaders are a team and need leadership, and like we have to understand like we're our own ship, and we have to understand how we run this effectively, because out of this ship we have to go off and help other ships. And that's so important for alignment and like collaboration and learning how to deal with conflict, because those tensions are also important. So yeah, cool. Being quiet when I need to be shouting. So this one in my failing, I think, is me not understanding my place in the system, maybe similarly linked to strategy and autonomy and that conversation. But this was a lot about when things are happening in the system, everyone is looking to me for guidance. They're looking to me for the ship navigation. And so when something happens in the team and people are storming around it, I need to be vocal. I need to be saying something. And what I did here in this particular situation was something was happening in the team that was making everyone very unhappy. And I was solving the problem, but I didn't talk about it. And I didn't tell everyone what was happening. I wasn't transparent enough. I didn't share often enough. And what unintentionally I was doing was making everyone believe that I wasn't solving the problem and didn't have everyone's back when I was doing it. And it became such a surprise to me. So my response then from this point, when I heard people were thinking about me not supporting, I was like, but of course I'm supporting. I'm doing all the work I can. And the problem wasn't that I wasn't doing the work. The problem was I just wasn't talking about the work. And I needed to be shouting. I needed to be talking about what was going on. I needed to be sharing more. And it's something I actually see in Spotify that we do incredibly well, is there's so much transparency. And it's been a really good lesson for me to like reflect on this failure and kind of understand what I was doing wrong there and how important it is being on the receiving end of it, of understanding how amazing it feels to like know and have this context. And when something big comes up, my leaders are talking about it and sharing information. So yeah, I think some of this is like one, framing my existence. So that I think especially in the start of like starting a new team or joining, like what is my role? What is in my head? Where do I think we're going? What is the strategy and plan underneath it? Framing like what I'm trying to solve. Like I've seen a leader do this before, which I really enjoy now, which I think is great. Like when you join a new team or start a new team, like what's the first 90 days that you're going to be, what are you going to do in that first 90 days? What's the problems you're going to solve? Where are you going to spend your time? And I didn't do those things. And I said, I didn't share often. And I think there's a way you can do all of that in a very congruent way, which is making sure you still keep true to your values, and you make sure that, you're sharing things in a way that is meaningful to the organization. Cool. Okay. Right. I'm going to skip past this one because we're low on time, but what I wanted to talk about here very, very quickly is just find ways to like talk about strategy. And the best way sometimes is having something as an artifact that you can distribute, because otherwise it's just in everyone's heads. And that's where misunderstanding happens. So I suck at this so badly. And I know it's something really important to do. Okay. Leaving my team stuck in consensus making. So this is a take of, I didn't understand what I was doing for the longest time, which was I was playing more of a facilitator than I was playing a driver. I didn't realize I was doing that. I thought I was doing something positive by allowing the team to reach consensus. But sometimes I needed to drive, and I wasn't doing that enough. And it wasn't about me making authoritarian decisions. It was driving, which is like, okay, guys, let's go solve this problem together. And I think this learning here is like feeling empowered to drive, but also being ready to facilitate, like knowing that balance of like, okay, like allow the team to storm for a bit, allow the team to reach consensus. And if they don't get there, take the wheel and drive. It's okay to do that. And, you know, it's something, I'm still much more of a facilitator than I am a driver. And it's something, again, I think I still get it wrong fairly often. But this is something I'm much more conscious of now. It's like, am I driving or am I facilitating? Okay, this one, thinking I know better than what the system is telling me. Here in this role, the team was trying to tell me something and I ignored it because I thought I knew better. It literally was it. I thought, nope, team doesn't know what they're talking about. They just need to wait and see it through. And I thought I knew better. I really did. And it's ego and experience and all these things coming together that had made me believe this. But there's this very simple thing here, like whatever my humans are experiencing in language, the way they behave, the way they approach things are always going to be the best indicators of what's going on. Does it mean it's right? Don't know. But if someone's experiencing something that is their reality, and for me to ignore it and for me to think I know better is not a way out. I have to understand it. I have to like empathize with it and dig into it and allow us to move through it. But as soon as I think I know better, I'm completely stuffing it up. And yeah, I did this, yeah. I completely thought I knew better. Definitely takes a lot of curiosity, which I think is something I try and be a lot better at now, trying to be more curious. So yeah, cool. 14. I'm going to squeeze past this one as well, because I think a lot of us understand this. Building a system without measurement. And when I mean a system here, I don't mean a service, I mean an organization. My biggest lesson here is, especially when you're building a team from scratch and it's a big team and you're doing so many things at the same time, it's so hard to navigate it. It's so hard to like know, if I'm making this org change and changing the way that we approach prioritization and backlogs, and I'm trying to like accelerate and scale and build a culture, how do I know if any of that stuff is getting us closer? And it's a tricky one because you don't want to spend too much time measuring, because that just, you're spending time measuring. So finding these ways to like balance out measuring and knowing the health of my systems, I think is interesting. And like knowing how to measure, where to measure, what those measurement systems are, I think is something really interesting to play with. Put it like, I love to put it as early as possible now, because then I know how we're progressing through a system. So yeah, cool. Got two more and I think we're doing okay on time. Okay, cool. This one I think is a lot about like being vague about someone joining and someone, I made this mistake because we were scaling insanely fast. And I thought I had smart people, they'll figure it out. Like they'll figure out their role in the system. No, like I needed to help them describe their role in the system. And like my general thing here, which I think I come up to now is, you know, if anyone in my team can't describe what they do and why they exist, like what is their meaning and sense of belonging as an individual in the team, in the context of what we're doing, they probably won't feel like they're adding value. And it maybe won't happen now, but it may happen later. But somewhere along the line, that will probably happen. Or that's at least been my experience. It's like getting that in up front of like even get it wrong. Like I think now what I do is that if the expectations are wrong, it doesn't matter, but you get to point at something and go, oh, okay, we stuffed that up. Let's change it. But this has come back. This has come back many times and completely bit me in the ass because I didn't do the work up front to help this human frame their existence. Cool. Last one, holding on to emotion. This was a time where I was leading a team and it was a very stressful time because we were trying to get through a lot of deliveries and I was working weekends and late nights. And eventually towards this one weekend, I just wanted this day to like spend time with my family. And in the middle of this entire day, I told no one to call me. They called me and tried to play hierarchy on me. And I just lost it. Like I was just like, absolutely not, put the phone down, turn my phone off. Coming in Monday, expecting to be fired or there to be chaos or something. And there wasn't. And my manager just told me, like, you know what, it sounds like you're holding on to this stuff. Like, take a break. Like, it's okay. And I know where this comes from because it's what we started here when we started this conversation of failing as a leader, is we feel like we have to hold so much that we don't get to be human. And I don't think that needs to be it. Like, I think it's okay to be human, like, because I think that adds something really wonderful for the people who are leading to get to see. Do you have to be mindful of it? Like, yes, you don't want to be ranting about something because that's unhelpful, but it's okay to be human. And, you know, now I don't know if I get this right, you know, but I think it's a really great, that failing taught me a lot in knowing it's okay to like say I'm stressed or sad or unhappy or I'm struggling with something. Cool. And I think that's it. We've got 5 minutes. Everything else here. Huzzah. That was it. Added a little selection of books and things here. I don't know where the selection came from. I just literally just went into my Goodreads and just pulled some books that just first came to mind. I'll send the slide deck out and Benny and Tanaka can send it out as well. But some books that have like shaped me in interesting ways. Some I wouldn't expect would have shaped me, like The Well-Tempered City, which is about city building, but I've used a lot of the models for applying to team building, to things like metaphors and systems thinking and all these different things. So yeah, I hope this is of value, and I'm sharing it because I want to know what everyone else is reading. So share with me as well. Cool. That's it.
Thank you so much, Aveshan. If anyone has questions, please throw them into the chat there. There's a couple that have come on. And maybe just one quick thing. You asked me to be accountable, Aveshan, about your word cloud. And there was one, although you said fuck a lot of times, you forgot fuck, fuckity, fuck. So,
thank you for the feedback, Benny.
If you want to add that in to wrap up, please go ahead. Yeah. I've got a couple of questions that I actually asked. So the first one that I wanted to know was, you talked about sort of insecurity in the beginning and trying to, you kind of tend, insecurity as a clear sign of how you're going to end up leading someone. So how do you recognize that you're being insecure? Because sometimes you're self-aware enough to realize it. Sometimes you're not self-aware enough to realize it. But if you do realize it, what do you do to get out of it? How do you get out of being insecure?
Yeah, it's hard to like start with awareness. Like I think I've always known, like, and I think we all know, and we have that feeling that kind of says, oh, like I'm responding out of this place that like doesn't feel right. But as you said, like sometimes it doesn't really work out that way. And I think what I've done there is like make sure some like people in my team or like peers can hold me accountable as well. I kind of say like, hey, Aveshan, like are you responding out of fear right now? Is this some insecurity like that's triggering for you? Because generally, I think those moments would be quite out of character. They'd be like these tangential plays to my character that may surprise someone. And I think that's generally how I've navigated, because there's definitely times where I haven't got it right, but people have given me really great feedback to kind of like pick it apart. And then from that place, it becomes easier because I think like I can approach it in a way which is, okay, I know this is happening. Like what is my intention here? What I genuinely want to do. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. I think that's helpful for myself too. I don't know if this question was answered. I think David Domase asked, you mentioned trust model. Who is the author? Does anyone know?
Yeah, so that's David Meister. I'll put it in the chat now.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you just search for David Meister trust model, you'll find his website. And he has some ton of reading
Awesome.
there.
Awesome. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions? I've got a couple still, if anyone else wants to add. Okay, Gabriel's got one. Do you find it difficult to hold off responding immediately to things that are thorny? If not, are there any tips for me?
Yeah. Think about this one. It's a great question. Yeah, I think what would I do? I think there's definitely an instinct or something will kick in. Something will kick in that will tell me, will make me fear it, will make me like want to go, I don't want to deal with this, because I'm not someone who's I wouldn't say I'm conflict averse, but I also don't like conflict. I don't really want to approach it. So when it comes to something thorny, I think I need a lot of time because I'm trying to think about a strategy that will work. I'm definitely not someone that does it instinctively or like in that moment. And I definitely delay it because I think like I would be scared, because ultimately I'm trying to think about how I can, like, happiness and like keeping things as they are is like valuable to me. I don't want to upset someone. I want to be kind all the time, and trying to frame thorny issues as a way of a kind act maybe has helped me. So if it's something where I go like, I need to deliver some like difficult feedback, which I'm finding difficult to deliver, or it's something that is difficult for us to like rally a team together, I guess I ask myself, like, is it something that is a kind act for this human or set of humans? And if it is, then that helps me think about how to place it or how to approach it.
Gabriel bows. Thank you. I think that's a very good insight. Then I've got one from David. He asked, when you fuckity fuck up, love it. How do you know that you did, and how do you learn from it?
So why it was a little easy for me to write this slide deck up is every time I change roles at companies, I always write a little lessons note. So I always do a little bit of retrospective and kind of go like, okay, what did I learn? How did I go through that? Which I think helps me a lot. So maybe not in the moment, but definitely like maybe like, I don't know, maybe there's a 1 to 2 year kind of like feedback loop, which helps me a lot because I get to, I get to reflect it and kind of go, oh, like I forgot about that and I'm still completely fucking that up. So I think that helps me, just reflecting on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think time is up. So I think those are all the questions as well. Yeah, first and foremost, Aveshan, I just want to thank you for talking and sharing your lessons and being vulnerable to our community, and even sharing some stories that you've never shared before. So we really, really appreciate it. I'm sure there's littered with tons of lessons that all of us can take away. And as customary, we give a audiobook or a digital book to all our speakers. So if you would like to let us know a little bit later to the leadership team here, let us know which book you'd like and we'll get that through to you. But yeah, from everyone, the feedback has been awesome. Everyone has been really, really thankful for you to be here. Just the responses and the chats and the engagement. This has been an awesome, awesome chat. So thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks so much everyone listening. Yeah.
Perfect. And Tanaka, I believe you need to end off with something too.
I already dropped it in the chat, but we'll be pushing out the newsletter I mentioned at the start of the meetup in a few minutes. So if you want to sign up before that goes through, the details are in the chat. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And what we're going to try to do is we'll get this video up, and we'll ask Aveshan for the slide deck if he's willing to share that with all of us. And it'll have everything there from the lessons to as well as the book library that's inspired Aveshan for this talk and his leadership career. Thank you very much, everyone. Till next month. Cheers, everyone.